Good morning. Good to see you.
I know. Short,
So did Chris end up not getting it?
inexpensive.
Beginning of the month to the editor of the budget meeting.
So do you think you got a?
I'm trying to sell a classified ad for you. Don't say I've never done anything.
I suppose you want to cut,
You
right?
know what, I'm surprised that you
There's your new ad salesperson right here. Yeah, right here. That's what you've been advertising. Yeah, you're hired.
I better be quiet. I see a conflict of interest here on the agenda.
A little bit.
So,
Thank you.
And you never know. They don't know that they have it 2 days later, so they never know.
I like the arms on it so I can fall asleep. You kick me if I do.
Well, my company is still 5 days.
I know Greg really well, actually, and I was still calling my house to the chapter. Have you met him?
Yeah.
It's gonna blow.
He came off the.
Oh, yeah. Out to your place? Oh, okay, good.
A lot of things in common.
I suppose you know by now.
You've been behaving with them?
No.
When I talk to him,
Yep.
I don't get too much, I can bring old Frank.
Maybe
I'm sure.
Or you got?
You're not gonna get out that way though. You will, you will. Unlock it and shut the door.
I don't know if this thing actually, I think this thing
No, this was a case of where you
I
kind of
don't
needed.
know. I don't know if it feels better with it on or without. Who knows?
See the value.
What? She can't do it. Did I tell you that?
Yeah.
I'm okay, but come here, Cam.
But,
Yeah.
Look out. Look out.
So he's not complaining yet, he's not complaining about the property tax.
Not a bad view.
So it's kind of refreshing.
Excellent.
Benefits when you get all of that.
Grab a few, I can put them in the drum.
What's going on?
I thought it would be easy for me to just find it.
Yeah.
You're making it. You're making a science out of getting here exactly on time.
You gotta say all right. Because it's not my place.
You better hope the tractor plays don't change it.
Mark David.
I was just gonna say.
Plenty of time.
ahead of time, because I don't know how to do that.
What?
I just need one. Good call. Good call. You never know when you might need someone.
Did I steal your shirt?
Not a bad idea. They might cut the introduction.
Okay, we'll call to order the regular city council meeting for August 22nd. Start with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any changes to the agenda tonight?
We don't, Madam Mayor, the agenda is ready to go.
Motion to approve is written.
First and second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We'll start with the check presentation to the Tracy Education Foundation.
Yes, Mayor, I have a check right here actually, and just to kind of set this up and remind the public what this was all about. But we had Aloha Night about a month ago. We sold a lot of raffle tickets, enough to donate $1,530 to the Tracy Area Community Foundation. And I want to acknowledge also that we did this under the raffle license for the Eagles Club. And so it's actually specifically a donation from the Eagles Club, but ultimately we sold the tickets. The city also made about $1,000 as well that will go back to the liquor store. And so I have this check, and I thought that Tam might want to come up. And the rest of you, and we have the Education Foundation members as well, and so if they'd like to come up and say something, that would be great too. You want to say anything, Chad, or anybody else?
Yeah, sure. And Eric, come on up, and Jody are two of the foundation members that are present tonight, so just want to thank the
Hey,
city.
Chet, will you do it in front of the microwave?
Yeah.
Right here?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so with me tonight is Eric Foltz, the president of the Tracy Area Education Foundation, and Jody Kruger, another member of the Education Foundation. And so just on behalf of the foundation, I want to say thank you to the city for sponsoring Aloha Night. It was a fun night to get to see people in the community out and about and sharing in some fun and fellowship, but also the money that was raised will go to the foundation. We have a lot of projects that we do for kids. We're put in theater lights, at the gym. If you've been at any programs there, when you go to Miss Tracy, you'll see all the lights that have been there. They bought iPads for elementary students. They bought certain software for students to help with choir robes and marching band uniforms. And so that's just to name a few things that the Education Foundation does for kids. And if teachers or administrators have requests, the foundation meets quarterly and sits down and talks about all of the different requests, and sometimes does big projects like the theater lights, or sometimes just contributes to other projects as well. So that's a little bit about the foundation, and it's going to a good cause, and I'm sure the committee will sit down and talk about ways to spend it. Eric, Jody, do you want to?
I'd just like to thank you all for keeping the Education Foundation in funding it and helping us out to support our kids in our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, well, let's take a picture. Yeah. So the drill is everybody has to go back there behind City Council. And I'll give the mayor the check. I'll give you the check, Chad. You can take it.
We might set a record for a number of people.
This is a big one.
Just have to move back a little bit.
You can go ahead, Chad. That's okay. Notoriously hanging out on there. Come all the way. Let's do that.
All right.
There we go.
Good.
Ron?
Squeeze in, Ron.
Mr. Leonard?
Inhale.
Keep going, Ron.
I can't. I got wheels on my knees. I can't go anywhere.
Climb up on the back. There you go.
There we go. That's better.
All right, perfect. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 1.
Thank you.
On top of the wheelchair. They had to take me out of the spokes.
Hi.
I can move you over on the phone.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Chad.
Thank
Oh, we
you.
got another one, don't we?
See you later.
Thank you guys.
Remain standing.
I guess we could go right on to the next one then. I guess we got two checks to give. It's always fun to give out lots of checks. So way back when, we were still waiting for a couple checks to come in, but everything has come in terms of the sponsorships, burgers, bands, and brews. So overall, we showed about a $4,800 profit. from that event. And with that, have been able to write a check for the Tracy Area Community Foundation for $3,500. And so we have a couple of people here who are on the foundation board. Jeff Carpenter, our department head, is here, and also Tom is on the foundation board too. And so I think I'm going to hand you this, and then I guess Jeff and Tom can come up and accept the check.
Well, I just want, Shane gave me a little note.
Shane, you need to talk.
Yes, of course. Shane Erickson apologized, but he couldn't be here tonight. He had prior commitments, but he just wanted to say thank you very much. Again, same thing as Chad said, that what a great night of getting the community together and all the people that we've seen out and wanting to have these things again and again to make this a place where everybody wants to live. And from Shane and the rest of the board, Shane Erickson and the rest of the board, thank you very much for putting the event on, and he wanted me to make sure we said this is going to be going into a fund that we're going to be using this right away. So we were able to raise the $25,000 due to some hard work around here, and then the match from Southwest Initiative, and then this is actually going to be going into a fund where we're going to be using it probably right before Christmas. So we're going to have make some people happy right before Christmas with this money.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Take a picture. You got to take a picture now. You're on the board.
Get up there.
Absolutely. You and Tom
I
both.
know, sorry.
Go ahead.
Here you go, Tom.
How about Jeff and Tom on either side? Oh, no.
Yeah, we get Jeff and Tom on.
Here. Jeff, squeeze
I
in
guess
right
it's-
there.
You're not that tall. Come on. George? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Right, sure.
Hey, as long as I'm down here, can I be on?
Nope, can't do it.
I know, either that or.
You want to take this?
Yeah, I give it to him now. Mayor, I just want to add, and I think you said it eloquently to me earlier today about what a win-win-win this is, that we have these great community events and raise money for charity at the same time, and I mean, it's a great thing. So
It is a great thing. It's like we're having community fun and raising money to help the community, and
yep.
yeah, it's just a good thing.
Yep. So thank you, everybody, for supporting these events, and we'll have them again next year, and, bigger and better every year.
Just a second, ma'am. So, is there anybody in the public that would like to talk about something that is not on the agenda? Rosemary?
You've got 3 minutes.
And I have to remind you, because people have been forgetting, but we have 3 minutes, my dear.
Okay, it'll be much shorter than that. Rosemary Martin from Tracy. I just wanted to say,
I'll follow up with behind her.
okay. Take it? All right, okay. I applied for and joined the Airport Commission not because I needed something more to do, but because I believe in the importance of having an airport in our community and working toward improving our airport. The aviation industry is an economic generator. It creates jobs and income. There's an important link between an airport and communities and keeping them vital. We are at the cusp, I want to remind you, we're at the cusp of wind energy coming into our area. Airports are important to the community because the local businesses will have access to the global market, and the global markets are growing. Many people are unaware of the numerous functions general aviation serves. In addition to providing personal business transportation, general aviation serves for transportation of freight, for law enforcement activities, firefighting activities, air ambulance needs, and recreation. Our fly-in is one of the biggest events of the Labor Day weekend. A gentleman from our community was very much against spending money on the airport. He didn't want his tax dollars wasted until he had a heart attack. And he was flown out of here on a fixed-wing flight to a cardiac hospital that saved his life. He no longer felt until the day he passed that any money that was spent by the city on the airport was wasted money. We as a community need to invest in our airport and move forward with the new hangar project, with the majority of cost of the new hangars being paid for. Thank you.
I'm not gonna. You don't have to. Hi, I'm Neil Daniels. I'm the chairman of the Airport Commission. I used to want to say police, I don't know why, but it's Airport Commission. But over the years, the city spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in master plan. We've waited for funding for these hangars, and we are finally first up on the list to have it partly funded. The city is going to have to do the rest of it. But I can assure you that I'm going to ask you first to take a real good look when you're budgeting, to budget for this. It's very, very expensive, we get that, but spread over the years, and even since our last commission meeting 3 weeks ago, there's been other funding that's come up, and we haven't tapped into businesses and private yet either. And I really think that we can make this really almost wash with the investment that the city's going to have to make per year, and I think we can make this work. But please do really take a good close look at this funding coming up. If we do not take it or accept it, it takes us back out almost 2030, Eric, somewhere in there, before we're going to see it again. So this is a real good opportunity to go forward, move forward, and we've spent a lot of money out there already, and we continue. We get a lot of nice comments about this airport, but it does need hangars. I believe we have 19 people on that signed a letter of intent. If we put hangars out there, they'd put their airplanes here, so it's further increase our fuel sales and the income and everything for this airport. So just on behalf of the airport and the commission is behind this, they're in favor of it. I hope you guys help fund it. So thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, guys. Okay, if all of you don't mind, Tamara would like to give her report because she has a fundraising event going on out there at the liquor store with the fire department. So you guys okay with that?
Thank you. Eric, actually, I didn't give you one of these.
Can we say no?
I know.
I don't, right? No. So, actually, we do have a we have an event going on with the fire department, and we're doing root beer floats for free will donation going right to the fire department. Wednesday, Boxcar Brew is rolling off of the line, so we will be up there getting to see our beer come off the line. We actually got our award in the mail a couple days ago, finally, for top 100 retailers. We had a great July. We had a good July that'll help kind of make up for some of the slow months we've had coming up or from behind. Anything else? Just trying to recap things quick so I can run back out there.
How late does the...
Until 7. So you gotta hurry.
Yeah, okay. Make a motion.
Could have brought you one down.
First and second, any further discussion?
I'm sorry?
What Wednesday was that fundraiser with the fire department?
Right, it's going on right now.
Oh, today?
Yeah, that's why I'm trying to hurry back.
Oh, okay. All right, very good. Okay.
So, MMBA and Coors Light kind of collaborate with like the liquor, with the municipal liquor stores, and then support the whole fire department. So this is our way of helping support Tracy's fire department.
And we have Coors Light on sale for
$19.99, yeah, which is
24 pack for the next 30 days. So
I was going to just say that. It's like the fundraiser doesn't end today, so drink beer and support the fire department.
Can we put in an order?
Yeah, should I bring you some down when I leave?
Yeah.
If you're still here, I'll bring you root beer floats. Yeah.
They're doing.
Anybody have questions?
Can I have sugar-free for mine?
Yeah. You can't have ice cream. Okay, we good?
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tam.
All right, back to our normal. Dave, you want to kick us off on this?
I'll make a motion to approve the August 8th council minutes. To approve the municipal accounts payable without breakthrough beverage and approve the municipal account receivable.
I'll second that.
First and second, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Reuben,
Yes.
Dobson,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Teagues,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Randall,
Aye.
Mayor Condon.
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve municipal accounts payable to Breakthrough Beverage.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion on this? Roll call, please.
Randall,
Aye.
Teagues,
Abstain.
Hope, Reuben,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Dobson,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Mayor Condon.
Aye. Does anybody have anything for Mayor Council Communication tonight? Hearing none, we will go to staff reports. Who would like to go first? Val, would you like to go?
Sure.
I go.
Oh, right. You have my report, but I just wanted to highlight that our teen art exhibition opening is this Thursday night at 6:30. So if you have a chance, stop on down. Just going to be a little hour-long thing with hopefully all or most of the artists there. And we will keep the artwork up until sometime in September. I'm hoping to keep it up through maybe the 21st for a reason I'm about to share next, and that is because we will be hosting the annual Plum Creek meeting on September 21st, and that will be for the Plum Creek Governing Board and Advisory Council, which is all the librarians. So we'll be having a catered meal at the library, and it's always kind of special when you can actually have it at a library rather than a different venue. So we'll be able to give tours of the library and everything like that. So looking forward to that, and I'm hoping that the kids will let us keep their art up so that we can show that off to area communities. I think that's about all I have for you tonight, unless you have any questions.
So Val, that Plum Creek meeting at lunch, that'll be held in your lower level then?
Yes. Yep.
Great.
Yep, and they're gonna contact, a couple of local businesses about catering the meal, so.
I've personally appreciated the library, especially a couple times in recent weeks. I have two different groups of grandchildren come through and take advantage of your special programs, so that was really nice.
Great.
It's nice to see that grant came through that you were looking for the Fox Credit Weekend.
Yeah, so we're working on that with United Way. We thought we weren't getting that, and then they came back and said, surprise. So yeah, I've got the books ordered for that, and we'll be putting some stickers in those recognizing the United Way, and it should be a great event.
Val, could you maybe just remind us and give her a refresher on that Appreciation Week emphasis you have planned?
Yeah, so that is the kickoff of our Welcoming Tracy initiative. We'll be working with some area businesses, hopefully doing some Facebook Lives throughout the week, talking about being welcoming to people in our community, whether that's people who are visiting, driving through town, they're here, staying at Lake Chetek State Park and decide to come and visit, or whether it's people who are moving to the community. Just an emphasis on how we want to make everyone feel welcome and at home here. And so then that will culminate with our story walk. If you're not familiar with that, we use stands and we take apart the books and set them along a walking path so that people can walk along and read the story. And we will be doing that in English, Hmong, and Spanish. Each storyboard will have all three languages on there. So just recognizing our community's diversity and that we welcome that.
Could you tell us who the people are that are helping with those translations, the Spanish and Hmong translations?
I was actually able to purchase copies of the book in all three languages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The author of the book, Kaukalia Yang, is actually a really well-known Minnesota author. her book, The Late Homecomer, is definitely worth a read if you've not read it. It's about her family moving to Minnesota from the refugee camps. And this is one of her children's books that we'll be using. So it's nice to have that Minnesota connection as well.
Great, well, we'll see you Thursday.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Jason, do you want to go?
Good evening. National Night Out went well, even though it was 100 degrees out that night. A lot of us lost a few pounds sweating it off working, but it went well. The numbers were down a little bit, but probably mainly there was a certain demographic or age group that didn't show up that usually does, just I'm sure because of the heat. So, answer any questions you have about my report, or?
I'd like to just extend a little thanks to our chief. A few weeks ago, I had kind of a dilemma with one of my renters, and she'd locked herself out of the apartment and called up, and here Jason came. He was here within about 2-3 minutes, and I don't know how he did it, but he adroitly opened up that door, and so very, very much appreciated, Jason.
Anybody else have anything for Jason?
Good job.
Thanks, Jason.
Yes, thank you.
Krista, do you want to go?
Just pretty standard, normal information for the month. Couple highlights: Swift Lake Park, our camping revenue is actually higher so far this year than it was all of last year. I know we have several spots that are being rented on a monthly basis out there, so that definitely helps. Peggy went through and did a review, OSHA review on all of our parks. Passed a few things on to Shane's team for notes, but otherwise nothing major there, just some minor things needed to be taken care of. Jeremy is continuing to do the maintenance at Orchard Lane, and all the lawn care out there seems to be going well. He's been fertilizing and treating for weeds. The VMC floor was resurfaced. I don't know if anyone noticed, that was closed for a couple of weeks and really smelly in here during that time. Practice started last week. We've had the volleyball team in there most of the day. Nice to have a little bit of extra noise around here sometimes. We are working on reviewing security for all of the doors here at the VMC, including cameras, a new fob system, just to enhance security in this building. So we'll have more on that a little bit later. What else? Oh yeah, Jeremy spent some time over at Boxcar Liquors doing some cleaning and painting outside, so you may notice some freshening up there. I think most of his work was probably in the back, is my guess. I haven't been over there to look.
It was. Yep.
Yeah. Tam already kind of covered Boxcar Liquors, so I don't really need to do anything else with that. Licensing revenues are down 7% compared to last year, which is pretty standard now that all of the licensing offices are open, so completely nothing unexpected there, that's for sure. And then I included a new chart for the fees that the city actually gets to keep out of all of that licensing revenue. It's down compared to 2021, again because at the beginning part of 2021 we were one of a few stations that were open, so it'll level back off to the back half of last year pretty quick. So any questions for me?
I do have one. I had somebody ask me how they monitor the people at Swift Lake Park, like as far as like if they pay, or if they pay for electricity, or if they're parked in one and they're in 3 of them. And
I know most of it's on your honor. I don't know if you guys, if Jason goes out and checks or weekends, but
Spot check.
so they do some spot checks. but for the most part, it's on your
I
honor out
figured it was
there.
on the honor, but
Yep.
I just asked.
Did you feel, Mayor, there was some abuse going on out in
I just had a citizen ask me how they did that, and I told them I'm sure most of it was on the honor, but they were a little concerned because one person was in one spot and they had their stuff in 3 of them, and
Krista, could you share, you mentioned the OSHA review of our parks. Could you enumerate, or what kinds of things would that include?
Most of it was paint, chipping paint on equipment. I think there may have been some fill of materials under slides and swings and things that needed to be filled back in just so it met the minimum depth requirements. That's really the basic. I don't know if there was
a couple bolts that were a thread too high.
Okay.
Just small stuff.
There weren't any pieces of equipment that they identified as concerns then?
Not that I was aware of.
Okay.
Have
I got
all
the-
the corrections been made then?
Pretty much, other than paint.
Good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Jeff, you want to go?
Sure.
3 minutes.
I promise I'll be short, since Eric says I talk too much. Quick update on O'Brien Court. It's in the inspection stage. We had the new owners, or new potential owners, I guess. The contractor, the purchase agreement is signed. We're just waiting for some inspection stuff, and then the closing later this fall. But we had a good meeting out at O'Brien Court with all of the residents all at one time. And then we also went through and did some meetings with the individuals out there, or the manager and the new owner all went right door to door. So found a couple things in the inspection, but all in all, it was small things so far. Now they're going to be coming back out here in the next couple weeks again. So they would like to be very hands-on owners and managers. So it's I think it eased a lot of the tensions that were out there. So that was nice to see. Again, same trend with multi-purpose center at the Eagles. It's for the summer for sure. It slowed way down. June was slow. July and August have been really slow. So we're hoping that that's going to pick up here in September when it cools down a little bit. Pool numbers, I'll have all the numbers from Shannon. It'll be in the September meeting, but I feel it was a very good, very successful year again. You know, we had some bumps in the road, but thanks to Shane and his crew getting everything done out there, there was I didn't really hear any complaints out there. So no accidents, that was always knock on wood, so that's always a good thing. But we hear some things that we need to do some work out there, painting and some things that are just wearing out after 20 years. So, but we have that list. I've gone over that with Shannon, and I'll go over that with Eric here in the next couple of days. The last movie night, I was hoping Val was going to be here. She handled the movie night for me on Friday night because we were out of town at a wedding. The numbers were down, but considering it was 63 degrees and chilly, it was a good year. So we had, for the movies all together, we probably had 350 people come out for the 3 movies. So I think that's just another success, and it's good to see people outside. Any questions?
I love that movie night thing. I think that's just cool.
And now Val does that on a monthly basis in the basement of the library, and we'll do the same thing at the VMC here in December again. For one showing, I don't know what the movie will be yet.
And apparently, Jeff, Shannon was able to stretch the staff, the lifeguards, to go through, make it through the weekend. I noticed there were a lot of people at the pool on Sunday.
Yes. Yep. And then I was out there on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday occasionally, and then Wednesday quite a bit. So, yes, it's something that we're addressing. Eric and I are going to address with Shannon, because a lot of our lifeguards are college students, and they came back for their first year after, as freshmen do usually come back. It's not going to be the case this coming year. So we're gonna not wait until February to do any recruiting. We're going to start recruiting now, maybe with some incentives, something. I don't know what we're going to do yet, but we have to do something so we make sure that we have enough lifeguards for this coming year.
So Jeff, were you the guy that filled in once in a while on watching at the top of the slides?
No, that wasn't me. No. That wouldn't have been so bad though, would it?
Put a lot of sunscreen on.
Yeah, and I got to wear shorts a couple days, so that was nice.
Oh, okay. But you did help out a little
Yeah,
bit.
it was not really help. Just go out there with my computer, and it was pretty easy.
Good job.
Anything else?
Any volunteers for the EDA position yet?
Nope, not yet. We'll discuss it at our next EDA meeting, which will be September 7th. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Heard that crack.
Huh?
Heard that.
I'm getting old. All right, I promise I keep this short as usual. Just some key points. So hopefully everybody got a chance to read my report. There's a few things that are going to happen late in the week. But paving on North Street, that's kind of a highlight I'd like just to pass along for the public's interest too. They're planning on doing that sometime in September, but they haven't nailed a date down yet. That's just going to be an overlay. So it'll be 2 blocks in North Street and 1 block, the only block of Otis Court. So that's coming up. We just issued, I think it was 11 weed notices last week. Now, the next couple weeks here, we'll be working on boxcar days, just cleaning up, sweeping. We sprayed a lot of the weeds over the last couple weeks on boulevards and parking lots downtown and that. So,
So what the timing of those weed notices, because I know you have to give them time to do it and everything.
So,
Are we going to be able to have the option if the homeowners don't do it before Labor Day, that they get done by then the city crew?
yeah, so typically it's 10 days after we issue the notice. When I go back, the ordinance I think says 5 days, but we usually give the mail, a few days, and then, a day to send it out. By the time I issue it, it gets actually mailed, then, you got a little lost time there. And then after 10 days from the date is usually when I go out and verify if it's done or not done, and we'll mow them. And then you guys see things sometimes that I don't too, so if there's anything on that's been bothering you all summer or whatever you don't see, just let me know, and I'll make sure. I may have got it, but so some of that stuff in backyards, it's hard to catch from the road. But
So, excuse me, Shane, so someone who doesn't comply with the 10 days notice, don't take care of their weeds, what's the consequence to them?
so after 10 days, if it's not done, we mow the lot, and it's a $200 fine plus hourly rate for the equipment to mow it and trim it. So, usually, say if it takes us an hour, it's $260 on average, and then, it's $45 an hour for trimming. So it gets real expensive. So it's best if everyone just mows their own lots, because, it saves us time too. So.
Have you been issuing weed notices for just where thistles and stuff have been growing up around utilities or a sign or something like that?
Yeah, if it's one thistle, I'm not gonna go after it. Sometimes we'll just go and pluck it, but it's less time. But others, if they have thistles all over the place, then that's a candidate for a notice.
Seems like it's been especially bad this summer.
Well, the problem is too, the weeds grow faster in the lawns, and people don't want to mow their lawns because it's too dry. Because I can see part of that, but when the thistles is high, it's a little extreme. But yeah, that's kind of the process. So.
Shane?
Yeah.
Shane, who gets these notices, a renter or an owner?
The owner.
The owner gets it?
Yep. Because a lot of times the renters, we have troubles finding the information on who owns it. We go off the county's website. If we know who the renter is, we'll send them to both. But in a lot of cases, in some cases even the utility bills go to the owner, and the renter just pays the landlord. But
In that case, it's kind of hard for us to know who's living there, but we did have one situation this year where the landlord didn't tell the homeowner, and I did a follow-up call saying, hey, do you guys know this notice is out, before we went and mowed it, and they actually mowed it. So, there's some of those instances, but for the most part, usually the landlord gives the tenant the message. Campsite posts, little number posts, we went through and fixed all the bad ones out there. That's looking pretty good now. And that we had several 3A2 meetings with the settlement issue. I know Kyle's got a report here later in the meeting here on that. And then as far as the airport goes, the AWAS is waiting for MnDOT to put their equipment in, and then they'll decommission the old site after that new system's up and running. So that's kind of on hold till MnDOT gets here. And then the pavement maintenance done at the airport, that is all complete, and they do have all the painting and everything done out there. So that's all finished up for the year, other than the final payment. I haven't seen that come through yet, but and then we started draining the pool today, so there's that.
Notice it was awful quiet over there tonight.
Yeah. So
Shane, you list the boulevard tree trimming has begun. Could you just review for people what the stipulations are, what causes you to want to trim a tree? Is there the branch extending into the street, or what height do they have to be, and so forth?
So most trucks, whether it be our plow trucks, fire truck, ambulance, most of them are at that 12-foot average mark. So we usually try to trim them up 14 feet, because different weather. If they're wet, they'll hang down further, but that gives us a little buffer there too. But so that's kind of what we go off of, and we go from the curb. Usually measure up from the curb.
Okay,
So
and if it's extending into the street.
yeah. And then sidewalks, there's a few sidewalks we have to go around and trim too. Those we don't trim as high, but you're not driving a car through the sidewalks. But
And on a sidewalk, a rule of thumb then, if someone should be able to walk
right
through the sidewalk without hitting their head on a branch.
Yeah. So usually 8 feet is kind of what I tell them to use as a guide. So, but
okay.
There's a few in town I noticed, and a few walk-arounds I've done in the last couple weeks. We gotta get done yet, but
yeah, there are no number of
yeah.
Shane, are the solar panel companies taking care of the weeds out at Swift Lakes?
Yeah, they're doing a lot better this year than they did last year. I know they had their sheep or whatever in there for a while roaming, so and they've been spraying around the fences, so it's looking a lot better. But they actually called me this year and asked how they were doing. So
Oh, I thought you meant to watch the sheep.
yeah.
Oh, I think that's a great idea, those sheep in there. And I don't find it objectionable.
They have that over by Granite.
It's pretty common, I guess, for solar fields.
Yeah.
And they only keep them in there so long, or they'll start eating wires, for what I've heard. So that's all I have, unless you have any more questions.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shane. I think it's my turn. It looks like Pam is bringing root beer floats, and so I told the staff, I said, the council's a lot nicer if you feed them, so,
Who wants one?
So, but I'm going to give my report while she's serving that, if that's okay. That way I can slip all the bad stuff by you, and you won't even notice.
It'll be the first week we enjoy your report.
We're doing this, Tom, to
Hey,
butter
just
you
keep
up.
that up.
So just a few notes. Just a reminder that September 1st is the budget meeting, and that's going to be in the library of the basement at 5:30. I think it's everybody on every schedule, but I just wanted to remind people. September 1st, yeah. It's a Thursday. A week from, I guess it'd be a week from Thursday. The second thing, Tam mentioned it real briefly, but I just want to make a little bit bigger deal out of it. But we are, the Boxcar Brew, the kind of private label that we're doing with Brow Brothers, is coming off the line on Wednesday.
We're going over there for that.
And so we'll have 210 cases, a limited edition special Boxcar Day weekend brew. And so, this is the kind of thing that you might want to get and keep, because there's only going to be 5,000 of these bottles and only 210 cases. So, if you want one, you better get it.
So it will be bottles, right?
They're bottles,
Okay,
yes.
good.
Above the Fold did the label, actually. So I want to give them credit for that. And, it was a... Are you not giving me one?
Do you want one?
I'll take one, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So that's kind of a big deal. But more information on that later.
Will it be at the liquor store to buy?
Yes, it'll be at the liquor store to buy.
By when though?
That's a good question, Tam. Do you think it'll be available? Do you know when their delivery date is?
I don't. They didn't. Yeah.
Soon, within a week.
Okay.
Within a week. Yes, very soon.
I'm thinking it's going to sell out, so
You better get out. You better get down there. That's for sure. We'll make an announcement when it's available for people.
I want this one to go over well because we've already got our next one in our line.
That's right. We also, just to let you know, we did a public hearing on this earlier this year, but the state of Colorado accepted our wellhead protection plan, so that's, just want to close the loop on that so you know about that.
Colorado did?
Oh, jeez. I thought I broke myself if that happened. I've only been here 2.5 years. I think it's because I spent the last week in Colorado, state of Minnesota. Sorry about that. Center Street is still waiting, and Kyle might have an update on that, I'm not sure, but we're still waiting on MnDOT to approve that. I mean, ultimately, we're not going to start that project this year. We'll bid it sometime this fall, and it'll start and be done, in the summer next year. We had hoped to start this year, but it's just too many people having to approve it. A couple other things that are coming up in the next 6 weeks or so, for you to remember, the comprehensive plan we'll ask you to adopt, as well as the Planning Commission. We completed our Community Artists in Residence program that we did, and we're going to have a report and some recommendations from that. The historical study for downtown is for this building is complete, and we're just putting the finishing touches on that. The State Historic Preservation Office has to approve that, but you'll hear about that real soon, probably the first meeting in October, as well as the Excel franchise agreement. So we have a lot of stuff coming up on the agenda that we want to try to get complete. We had kind of this 2-year agenda of what we wanted to accomplish with your goals, and trying to knock those off the list, in addition to the preliminary budget, which is coming up. So it's going to be a pretty aggressive agenda for the next few months through the end of the year. Does anybody have any questions about my report? If not, I'll have Kyle come up.
No, but you know what, I was going to add one thing, because I don't know last meeting if we said much kudos to the liquor store employees and manager is doing a great job out there.
Yep, they are doing a good job. There's some pretty interesting and
their
innovative
award.
stuff. I mean, you could sit and say, sales are down a little bit because the economy's down, but if you're trying new things, which we are, with the events, with this special boxcar brew and stuff like that. I mean, everybody's doing their best to do some pretty interesting and exciting things. So they are absolutely doing a great job. Yep.
We need to thank the public for those that buy local.
Yeah, absolutely.
Helps out the town.
Yeah, that's right. Buy your liquor here in town. It helps. A lot of money gets transferred to the general fund, and that keeps taxes lower, and that does make a difference.
I think a lot of people forget that, we might charge a little bit more here. We have to watch that we're not a lot more, but you might spend a little bit extra, but that money is staying local.
It is.
When you buy out of town, you might get it a little cheaper, but it's, no money's going in our coffer then.
You know, and that's a really good point. In fact, last week, you know, Tara wrote an article, wrote an editorial, you know, about that as well in the paper, and I think that's a really good point, you know, to support your local businesses in general, you know,
Yeah,
not just a liquor store. But yeah, absolutely, we want people to do that, 100%. It's a good reminder.
Eric, a question on the Center Street project.
Yep.
It's my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a significant shortage of the materials, the underground pipes and so forth used in these infrastructure projects. And I'm just wondering, and I've heard of some cities actually going ahead and buying the materials ahead of time. Is that something that
I don't think that would make any.
I
don't think that would make any sense for us because we haven't selected a contractor at this point, and all that has to be bid. We're not the actual. You know, we're not going to be doing the work ourselves.
Right.
But I think that's an important point. I mean, a lot of this stuff, there's a longer lead time on it than you used to. It's not like you can't get it; it just takes longer, and so it might work in our favor that we end up not trying to push it through this summer and just bid it the fall and start next year, because then that gives people an opportunity to, you know, compile the material. But that's an issue for sure.
Does that get us in trouble though with that bond business like we had on the other projects where we
No, we won't have that issue this time because those temporary bonds can go for 3 years. And so it expired, you know, earlier this year, so we had to refinance. And so we technically have until 22, 23, and 24, like 2025 actually, and we'll be done with the project well before that. We have to because rural development is requiring us to be done by the end of next summer anyway. So we'll continue to be able to use that same. We won't have that problem again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like the idea of possibly bidding it this fall for next year's work, because that's better than bidding late trying to get them started late.
Totally agree. We wanted to try to push it along and get it done just because you just never know. We're going to be pushing up against the deadline next year. We know that. But you know, at the end of the day, it was the right thing to do to change the project because we had to get the ponds done. Because our permit for the new ponds is going to require us to decommission the old ponds, and so that's not even a question. And we got roughly $1.8 million from the county through the state, you know, for Center Street, and that's money that we don't have to spend. And so, you know, it's a good deal all the way around for sure. So it's a good decision in what we're doing. It's just it gets pushed a little bit to 2023.
No, I agree with the decision to push back the bids.
Yep.
But I am concerned about the inflationary pressures on these materials, the infrastructure.
It's a good point. But we don't know where it's going to go. Only up, I guess.
It could work in our favor though, because they have all winter to acquire this stuff.
Yeah, could be. We'll find out, I guess.
Once they bid it, the price is locked in on the materials. So.
Yeah.
Right.
My understanding is that, you know, the federal government, they put so much money into these infrastructure programs. A lot of cities, the units of governments are doing projects, and the suppliers just can't keep up. But you can correct me if I'm wrong. It's just
I think Kyle's up next, and so unless there are any other questions, we could bring him up here, and he could even talk about that a little bit if you wish as well. Are there any other questions on any other topics before we bring Kyle up here?
No.
Waiting for Kyle.
Okay, now we have Kyle. We have Kyle Renicky from ISG, our engineer, who is going to talk about the 3A2, and I have kind of a handout for you too that I'll hand out at the same time, and I'm sure he can talk about, address the questions on Center Street too.
Yeah, I think that was all kind of a fair and accurate statements about the materials are something that have been a concern this past season. It's some stuff that I guess we've been hearing, I've been hearing it from a few cities that had the projects that were bid later in the spring, like say in April, they were having trouble getting materials in early, and the work was laying on to this fall. I think with bidding it here this fall, like you said, you lock in the prices on everything, you lock in the materials, and then you have that little bit extra time to get the materials ordered in. So I think we'll we'll still be sitting pretty good there. I guess the next topic is 3A2 and just some of the discussion related to, maybe I'll grab one of these to make sure I'm following along. But Eric, I don't know if you want to say anything else about it. I think Eric just invited me to talk through.
I could set it up if you want me to do
Well, there's just been a number of discussions lately about, the last meeting, we were still waiting on a report from our geotechnical firm. We got that report back, and there's been a number of discussions with us in the city and AT and our contractor to put together kind of that final repair plan and game plan for final paving, and just wanted to give an update on where that was at, and just where Eric had asked me to kind of bullet outline here. There's a lot of words, and I can just kind of go over this generally speaking of just where things started and how they kind of progressed through the summer.
I could set it up a little bit too, because I do want to say a couple things that I think are important, for the public as well as the council. The first one is that it's extremely important to us, as well as it is to you and the public, that we get a quality product out of this. I mean, when I drove down 6th Street today myself, I mean, I do it frequently, but I did it again today specifically because I wanted to kind of feel it out, as I was driving. And, clearly there's some work that needs to be done to get a better product. And so what we've been trying to do, and from my perspective, the most important thing is to make sure we have a quality product. So it takes a little bit longer maybe to get it done. That's kind of what needs to happen. If we take a little bit more time to work with the engineers and get some better sampling to know exactly how we're going to make it better, I mean, that's better than, rushing it through and having to live with a crummy street for the next 20 years. So we have taken some time to do a lot of that work this summer, and I think that was prudent. And ultimately, that's the most important message that I think that we could send, to the public, is that we are on top of it, and this is probably the most important priority of the city right now, is making sure that this was right. I asked Kyle and put this on the agenda to make sure that we, first of all, kind of outline what happened and how we got to where we were, and what we're going to do moving forward to fix it. And we've been laser focused on fixing it. Not asking you to take any action tonight. There probably will be some actions down the road, but tonight not asking you to do anything. With that, I guess Kyle, you kind of talk through what's happened and what we're doing moving forward.
Yeah, just to outline, obviously this has been something we've been talking about off and on all summer, so This is no surprise to anything. It was something that last fall we noticed a few settlements in the sidewalk areas on Hallett Street, and it was something that was being looked at that time at the very end of the season. And then spring of this year, the majority of the pavement settlement areas started showing up. So that was something that early on in the spring we had the discussion with staff and with the contractor and said, we got to keep an eye on this, and it's something we're going to have to get together on, a proposed solution on before we do any of the final paving. So I kind of outlined, I know in our June meeting, Shane and I was out, so Tim was here and kind of talked about that a little bit with City Council that night about just, one, there are a few of these issues, and two, what's kind of being done this year to make sure that doesn't happen again, obviously, and that some of those that those procedures have been revised at that point. Early July, our contractor had been starting to look at doing more paving again this year on those last 6 blocks, so they're getting ready to plan for that. And they had their paving subcontractor in and took a look at the streets and had put together a proposed solution. It was something we looked at and said, we think that we need to check in on this again. We want to make sure that we're not just covering it up at the surface level. So that's when we asked the AT to come back out and have a quick site visit with us, and that was when they had recommended doing some of this additional testing. That was in early July, and they did have with their schedule, their schedule's full. It took them a couple weeks to get out there to do the sampling itself. That's pretty normal with that type of procedure, the drilling and kind of coring that they were doing for that. And then following that, we waited a little bit for a report, but we got together with AET on that report and kind of put together some proposed, identified, that report did identify a couple areas that had some shortcomings and a good number of other ones that looked like they were in good shape. So it was good to have some of that verification. And then this last week or two, we had passed that along to our contractor and had some meetings on site where we kind of walked through a number of these different areas and said, and came with more of a group, what are a few of our options here, and getting everybody on board with here's what we expect to finish the project. There's a number of the areas that can be fixed at a surface level, but there are a number of other ones that are going to need to be cut out and recompacted and excavated down. So we have that all outlined with our some of our repairs here, and I would expect following that meeting that was Wednesday last week, and our contractor has been pulling together a schedule as far as what their repair time frame might be and what the final paving time frame might be. We expect to see him out there doing some work tomorrow in some of these areas, both with some of the with both types. Both R&G will be out here in Dunnock, their paving subcontractor, to start with some of those repairs, and they tentatively have a plan. The last I had seen was shortly after Labor Day for that final, to having all those repairs done and made, and the final wearing course layer of pavement down. So that's where things sit right now. I know there's been a number of other discussions between staff and council, and if there's any other questions that you want to ask me or talk about right now, it'd be, yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, or if you're done.
Nope.
My question is, how did this happen to slip through the cracks of you and the testing company? The streets before, like 2 or 3 years ago or whatever, we didn't have any of these issues, but we did with this contractor.
Mm-hmm.
So who wasn't on the ball that this happened? Because it shouldn't have happened. It's unacceptable, in my opinion, to have it happen.
Sure. Yeah, agreed. I think, I guess from my perspective, some of the, let's see, how do I put it the right way here? I mean, obviously we've had, same type of testing and same type of work year to year. I think one of the things this year that was pointed out by AET was with some of that drier weather, this material actually, when you're putting it back in and recompacting it, it does bridge. There can be some voids and they bridge over. And if some of those layers aren't put in a shallow enough thickness, some of those voids remain in the soils there.
I understand that,
Yeah.
but how come it wasn't caught sooner?
That one
Are they
I
here
don't.
enough to know what's going on, I guess is my question? I don't mean to sound rude, or I'm
No,
just trying to figure out, because I've done a lot of different things, and if you compact it, you compact it. If you
Mhm.
aren't doing the job, it isn't going to compact, and that's what it looks like happened. They didn't do the job.
Yeah.
Somebody watching them didn't watch them close enough, or the person doing it didn't do it right, or the people doing the testing didn't.
That's why I think we've had so many of these meetings. There isn't a clear smoking gun on that. We do a number of these tests while they're filling everything back in to make sure that, as far as we know it from the ground, from the bottom up, that things are going right. But from the time they put the pipe in to where they get it up to below all of our gravel and everything, there's a few tests. We actually do a test rolling procedure and testing on that before the gravel goes down, and more on top of that on the Class 5 itself. I don't know that there was any specific glaring issue at the time necessarily.
Kyle, is there any pattern to where the settlement problems are most prevalent, on the service lines?
Yeah, largely it's the service lines. Yep, it's a tougher area to, it's just generally speaking, they're a smaller, shorter, narrower trench, and they're harder to get bigger equipment into to do that compaction.
So what equipment did they use to compact it? Because I'll be honest, people that were watching said they used the backhoe. They put the dirt and use the backhoe to pack it down, then put on some more dirt, use the backhoe. Is that typical, or is there better equipment that compacts it, especially when you're talking going 6 feet down? So if you have a problem down at 5 feet, I don't know how far you drill down when you're doing your testing, but are you going to pick up a problem that's that far down?
With the
I mean,
current
that's a couple
test,
of
or if
different
yeah, it
questions.
is, yeah. I guess some of the tools that they had used for that were they'd fill in the trench with their backhoe. They do have an attachment that is a roller on there to
Well, there's
roll
no
it.
roller from what the people that were. People watch. I mean, it's interesting for people to watch when they're at home. I mean, instead of the soap opera or something, they'll watch something that's going on out at the street.
Yeah, I didn't observe any of that at the times I've been around, but I know it's something that that we had been keeping an eye on too, and I need to get with our folks too on that specific question. But it was something that, backfilling and using that roller piece on the backhoe was one of the ways that they did the trench stuff. I know last year.
Okay, so I have a question about that, because as you know, it's like we're in that kind of that field.
Mm-hmm.
So when Kendall and those guys are doing pipe out in the middle of a field, they use a jumping jack. Why do they not do that in a street?
They start with that. When they're at that lowest level around the pipe, they do start with the jumping jack, and then they move to that roller, and then as they bring things up, they have the big ride-on, sit-on specific piece of equipment.
And my second question is, if the material is that dry and everybody knew it was that dry, why were they not required to wet it some?
I guess it wasn't anything that was identified as, too dry to use at that time, but it was something that the testing that was done didn't show any real issues with any of the results that we were seeing out of it.
That all being said, what do we need to do different for the next street that this don't ever happen again?
Yeah. I mean, that part of it too is just tough from our perspective, and just the contract perspective. We can make have some discussion with contractors, but we can't dictate their means and methods of doing something. So if they are going about it in one way and there aren't failing density tests that we can say, hey, you're not doing a good enough job, you can't do that. It's something that is a means and methods thing with the contractor. I think it's something that maybe we do need to increase some of that frequency or do something different at the testing frequency on that and require it at every one of those service trenches or something something along those lines.
Because obviously we've had failures on this project.
Yeah.
So what's our recourse if the problem is 6 feet down? It's going to sink over the next 6 to 8 years. What's our recourse when something continues to sink? They'll fix this top layer, but if the problem is still down there, it doesn't show up right away because we're talking 6 feet down for it to start really settling.
Well, I think what we were seeing already was some of that, based on what my understanding is from our geotech and what they're seeing and what they expect that, this first season is really the biggest, indicator or time that these issues will show up. Following that, they really don't expect to see more settling based on what we were seeing in some of those results, other than in the areas that we are going to dig down and all the way to the bottom to some of those issue spots and recompact.
Is there some rush as to why we need to put that final layer on this year? I mean, wouldn't it seem sensible to leave it another season and just see what we wind up with frost and settling and wet spring?
Let me take that. The contract with the contractor also includes USDA rural development because they are funding a good portion of the project. And the contract currently says that the project has to reach substantial completion by September 1st. And ultimately, that's after an inspection of Shane and the engineer and myself, walk around and make sure it's done the way it's supposed to be done. If we do not put and we have talked to rural development, hey, what do you think about extending that substantial completion deadline out a little bit, given some of these circumstances? Substantial completion includes the final lift, by the way. And they said, no, we won't concur to that because that's not one of the reasons why you can extend the date on the contract per the agreement. And so we can't is the short answer because the USDA is telling us we can't.
So they're forcing us to have shoddy work?
No, they're not forcing us to have shoddy work. Their response to that, when I say, okay, well, then what are we supposed to do? They say, well, you can go past the deadline, and then the city council will have to decide what and how many liquidated damages we're going to require the contractor to pay. Because if they don't put the final lift on until 2023, that's $2,000 a day times what, 200 days or something. So, that's the short answer is that I don't think you're going to get. I think in the end you're not going to get shoddy work because of the work that's being done to test it and make sure that it's done right. The contractor has suggested that maybe you push that off until next year. But I think from their perspective, they are just trying to be accommodating. But I promise you they're not going to want to pay liquidated damages for the next 6 months.
I guess my concern here is we can talk until we're blue in the face about all these potholes and everything else, but my concern is when these contractors leave Tracy, Minnesota, that we have a good product for these taxpayers.
100% agree with you, council member. That is exactly the reason why we have been so diligent on this issue, why we require the additional testing, why we're going to require the contractor to dig out some of these areas, to go down to the level that, Jerry's talking about and things like that. Some of the areas we think have settled a little bit. We probably can do a little bit of a skim coat and we'll be okay. Plus, on top of that, we have another year warranty as well. And so if something shows up, another 12 months into the next season, we can go back on that as well. So it doesn't stop, with this substantial completion date either, for that matter. So we'll have more time if we see some other things. But I agree with you. That's exactly what we're trying to accomplish here. Take our time, do it right, make sure that we get what we want. We're not happy with this product at all. And you shouldn't be happy with this product at all. But we are doing everything we can to try to address the problems that we're seeing.
So if we chose to lower the rate that they pay for not being completed and let it go over the winter, would that be not a better idea than?
I'm not sure that I can really comment on that 100%. I don't know if that's a better idea or not, honestly.
Is there any other penalty that we would incur? I mean, everything's still going to be paid for, still within our bonding, everything.
Yeah, we may not get money from rural development on final completion, and so we essentially, the way it works is we pay out all the money and then they reimburse us. And so to a certain extent, there's a risk of that, but I'll let Kyle talk about that.
I don't know offhand what that risk is directly with rural development. I think if that was really a route the city council wanted to take, I think we'd want to get them involved with a direct statement related to that.
We'd want them to say we wouldn't withhold any funds or anything like that, but yeah.
It's just, to me, very, very unfortunate or whatever that it got this far, that they could get so far along and then it shows up. It should have showed up sooner. Somebody, in my opinion, dropped the ball along the way.
Well, I would like to see us at least ask the question, what would happen if we decided to? I think My own feeling would be is I would rather not see a beautiful final coat and then have to start digging patches into it. That's going to look horrible. You know, if there's more settling, certainly the first year is going to be the worst, but it'd be interesting to see how much more we're going to have over the course of this winter. And then when we know, then put a nice final coat on it. Well, good.
I think we need to know we need all the facts, and so part of the facts is what's rural development going to say.
Right.
Number two, I have an issue when any business, the problem is the quality of work done, but they're not the ones that want to have to experience the penalty. If they would have done the quality of work at the beginning, if it should have been caught sooner or not, initially, they did not do the quality work to start with. If it should have been caught sooner or later, that's another issue. But initially, it was not done correctly. And I'm sorry, somebody in this business should know if they did it right or not. They made the choice of the kind of product they put on our roads. So I think there should be a penalty to them. Because they're the ones that did not meet the expectation of good business and the contract. Now, I'm not saying I want to go 200 days and charge them $2,000 a day or whatever, but I'm sorry, if they don't think that there should be a penalty, I question their business. That's just me. But I question their business. You have to stand behind your product. If you are a good business, you stand behind your product. And I do not feel this company is standing behind their product and taking the accountability they need to take.
I agree.
Eric, you anticipate making a recommendation to us at the next council meeting?
Yeah, I think in the next council meeting we'll have a better idea, because they're going to start making the repairs. And we can get an answer to the question if there are any ramifications from rural development on this. And I mean, ultimately we'll end up with a change order that's in front of you of some kind, in the future. We're not quite at that point yet, but it's going to come in front of you probably at the next meeting. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, it's quite obvious it's not going to be by September 1st.
No, it's not going to. We're not going to be.
After that.
We're not going to be done by September 1st, and I think we will be done in September, or at least we can be done. If there's a desire to look at doing that second lift, I think we can get everything done but the second lift, in September, and I think we can even get the second lift in September too, if we go in that direction. But ultimately, yes is the short answer. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be done by September 1st. It's just a question of how much longer it's going to take. But I think it's important to take as long as it takes to get the right product.
You got to get the right.
And that's what we're trying. That's what we're trying to do here. And I think we've got a pretty good plan. At this point, some of those areas are going to be dug out. Some of them are going to be skim coated. And I think Kyle indicated that some of that repair work is going to start even tomorrow yet. And so we'll have a better idea of probably by the next meeting for sure, what that's going to look like. And I can give you an update at our budget meeting on September 1st as well.
So where they're starting tomorrow is probably where they have the signs on the streets already saying no parking?
I had just seen those this afternoon, yeah. I'm assuming.
So those
that's
are the
case
ones
too.
they're not digging up. I guess I didn't go down how far on 6th Street. I just know from where our house is, it's in front of our house and going down 6th Street, but I don't know how far, like to the Catholic Church or what. But is that what they're just going to?
I think it's going to be some of both. I did see an excavator on 6th Street further down, but I don't know exactly.
Kyle, you had a map that you had created that kind of showed where the different, what was going to happen in the different areas. Is that something you can email to me, and then I can email it out to the council? They can see what's going to be done where.
Yep.
How many streets are affected?
All of them.
Besides 6th and 5th?
How do you trust it's not all of them? The other ones just have.
And you know what amazing is? How many streets have we done in this town and we've never had a problem like this?
Well, we did on North Street and we did on
Well, North Street wasn't
Morgan
done.
It's
Street.
been a number of years
Yeah,
ago.
but just the last 5 years.
I'm talking
or
like the last.
the 3A
This
projects. I don't know of any issues. So that's what I'm trying to figure out what happened here.
Yeah, I think I know of one or two that were, but I mean, that's not uncommon to have one or two not.
The test that you had, how far down is the compaction? Is it 5 feet deep? Is it 6 feet deep?
As far as the tests that were recently.
Yeah, where are the gaps? Where are the voids that?
Toward some of those lower areas, yeah. Yep. So it was tested all the way down to where the pipes are at that 6 foot deep or 5 to 6 feet deep.
Kyle, do you have a person on site every day, Monday through Friday? Once in a while I see your truck and then I don't see it for a couple of days, so. Is there someone from your company here every day?
Mm-hmm.
All day.
Yeah, or
All day?
typically, yep.
But that's not their job, testing that stuff. They're
No,
just,
I know
you're
that.
just overseeing, is that what your
Yeah.
company does? I don't know, what does your
Yeah.
company do?
Yeah, and it is oversight on that, yep. So, yep, we do a lot of the overall coordination, but yeah, inspection or the observation part of it is part of our role too. Yep, working with AET to come and do some of those checks. And
If we have issues going forward, and I hope not, but what is our resolution? I mean, you're 12 months, but.
After that, you don't get anything else.
I think that's a fair statement. If something popped up in 6 years, I mean, first of all, I would say honestly, if it popped up in 6 years, it'd be hard to tell whether it was part of the original, or just something else that caused it, But if it's out of that warranty period, then basically, it'd be on the city. Yeah.
So has somebody been watching closer with the streets now that they did this year?
yeah, that was something.
Like on Roland Street, and some of those.
Like the ones they just did.
Yeah.
Yeah, early on when we talked about it, the contractor, it kind of identified some of their operations that they thought they could improve on, and it was something that they did change up some of the service trench compaction when they, as far as getting their biggest piece of compaction equipment into all of them as soon as they can, earlier on, into all those service trenches.
From my observation, it did look like the soils were entirely different this year that you put back. I mean, they looked like that year I had, it just big clumps of clay and stuff were going back in there. This year it looked like whatever they did when they were piling it up, it was definitely smaller samples. But
Well, we've kind of hashed through what's going to happen now, but when we bid Center Street, what are we going to do to guarantee this doesn't happen again?
Well,
Before we get too far along, what's going to be in there that says this is not going to happen again?
I think a guarantee is what we all love. Obviously, I think that we could be stepping up some of that testing frequency right away, so that when the contractor does show up and they work through their means and methods, we can spend a lot more effort up front looking at that and making sure they get started on the right foot. There wasn't necessarily any evidence of these issues right up front on this one, but it's something that I think we can do. We could do more on that if it's something that is important. It obviously is.
I think it is.
Yeah.
there will be different standards on that road though, just because of the weight.
Yeah, there will be different, both just the traffic loading part of it, and then that's a state aid road, so they'll be following a cut on top of what's already required. It'd be the MnDOT state aid standards too.
Will they be there during that process as well, though, state? Or?
Not typically. They would. It would be either the county or they would still rely on the city's inspection staff the way that it is right now, but they'll have some more additional testing requirements that go along with it.
Well, I think at this point, there's not much we can do except for see what happens in the next 2 weeks and see what staff recommends to us in another couple weeks.
I mean, ultimately, we're going to start on the repairs, or RNG is going to start on the repairs here in the next next couple of weeks, and then, you know, you'll have a decision to make on a change order regarding liquidated damages, and you know, if you want to entertain the issue of doing the second lift later, you know, we can have that discussion as well. But it'll mostly come in the form of a change order. Is what it amounts to.
Can you check into that and see?
Yeah, we'll check into it. Just make sure that we're not missing anything with rural development. I guarantee you that they are wanting to get it done. Is what it amounts to. That's a good portion of it, which is why they don't like to give extensions for these kinds of things.
I can't believe they don't want to get it done right.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, if
it's
they're
the federal
pushing us to get this done, let's get it done right.
I agree with you in terms of getting it done right. Yes, 100%. That's exactly why we're doing what we're doing. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Council. We appreciate it. We know this is an important issue to the community, and you know, I know the community knows that you care about it too.
Can I ask you a question related but not related?
Okay.
Did you follow up as far as for Boxcar Day parade then with the road?
Yeah, we
issues?
we've had a couple of conversations about that actually today. I don't have a full answer to that yet as to whether or not it might need to change. We actually think that it's probably going to be okay in terms of, you know, what they're doing. The email that I got from RNG today said they wanted to see, you know, what came out of the council discussion tonight to see, you know, if they wanted to recommend changing the Boxcar Day parade route. At this point, I haven't heard them say that. I don't know if Shane or Kyle, if you have any other information on that I more recent.
That email I just read this afternoon.
Yeah, and so I don't have a full answer to you yet, but we're trying to get an answer as quickly as possible in case that's an issue.
So that the chamber can.
I don't think it's going to have to change, but I can't say that for sure. Are you ready for new business?
I'm ready.
Oh, excellent. That's good. The first item is a resolution approving the language for the 2022 general ballot. You know, we have 3 council members up for election and 3 council seats. And traditionally, the way we've done it is vote for 3, vote for up to 3. You could theoretically have 3 vote for 1 elections, but, you know, we have done it like we did it vote for 5 actually last time because we did 7. So this basically just repeats what we're doing last year and you know, says vote for 3, which is what we had anticipated we were going to do. And so that's what this resolution is in front of you.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2022-80 for the language of the general ballot.
I'll second that.
We have a first and second. Anybody have any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Higgs.
Aye.
Landike.
Aye.
Dobson.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Whitman.
Yes.
Mayor Coleman.
Aye.
This last item, Mayor, is an emergency ordinance. And this is kind of a unique situation. Diane said she hadn't done an emergency ordinance before, and we had to look up the procedure. But normally the way that an ordinance works is that you have, you know, it's introduced once, and then you do a notice on a public hearing, and then it's finally adopted on a second vote. The charter allows us, and I got written confirmation via email from Matt Gross about that this afternoon, to do an ordinance as an emergency ordinance in one shot. And so that's what this is tonight, is an emergency ordinance. So an emergency ordinance does require a 2/3 majority vote, not just a simple majority. So we'd have to have at least, I think, 5 out of 7 of you say yes to this tonight. The reason why it's an emergency ordinance is because it's part of the circumstances that arose from the filings for city council. So we had 2 people, we have 3 city council seats up, as I just said. We only had 2 people file for it. there's ways to fill that vacancy, but the state of Minnesota requires that there be a write-in line for every office. The state of Minnesota has a law that says that for federal, state, and county offices, the write-in votes are only counted for people who request in writing that their vote be counted. Because people do kind of weird things with write-ins sometimes. They write in their mother's name, or they write in Mickey Mouse, or something weird like that, because and there's also there's a process for that, and then some people get their name written in, they don't want to run for that, and so the idea is that if you have a write-in candidate, they are kind of a declared candidate. It says, yes, I want to be a write-in candidate, please write in my name, and they identify themselves as such. So because the state does not have any regulations on it for cities, only for county, federal, and state offices, we could be putting ourselves in the situation if we don't do something where, somebody could get elected with 3 votes, or, that doesn't even know that they're even that they were even going to be on the ballot. I mean, it becomes kind of chaotic. So, what this ordinance does is that it brings us essentially in compliance with state law. Directly follow state law on how you handle write-in votes. It's an emergency ordinance because obviously we want to get it done, quickly, so that we get it done before the election. Section 4.04 of the charter allows you to establish election procedures by ordinance, and so you have the authority to do it. And ultimately, that's what this is. The second part of this ordinance, other than the write-in piece, which I put in there because, well, if we're going to do it, we might as well do everything at the same time. And it basically does the same thing as the resolution you just passed, which says that when we have 3 people on the ballot, it's going to be a vote for 3 language, and then you don't have to go back and do this every time, in elections. So you have consistency in how people are elected in the city over time. And so that's what this is, and that's why it's an emergency ordinance. So what will happen is if you vote for this tonight, we will publish it in the paper tomorrow. We will be posting it in 3 conspicuous places in the city, which Diane and I discussed as being City Hall and Library and the liquor store. Those are 2 requirements by the charter. And then within 24 hours of that happening, it will become law. We will have a form that Diane has already downloaded from the Secretary of State's website. So if you are a candidate that wishes to have your write-in votes counted, you can come to Diane and get that form, sign that, and give that to her, and you will be one of those people. That has to be signed and given to Diane 7 days prior to the election or before. So don't wait until 5 days before the election, because then it's too late. And that's how that procedure is going to work. Just to let you kind of walk through the possibilities, obviously if at least one person files to have their write-in votes counted, then the election for the 3rd council seat will be determined by write-in votes. If no one files to be a write-in candidate for the spot, the charter tells us how to do that too. You would declare a vacancy in January when the new council is seated. You will then appoint someone to fill the seat for 2 years until the next general city council election, which will be in 2024, and then there will be a special election to fill the remainder of those 2 terms. So one way or another, we'll have a council member, sometime in, January, February, time frame. Although we may have to operate with 6, for some period of time. Are there any questions about that? Just trying to get ahead of this issue and avoid some potential chaos.
No question, but it just drives me crazy that we have to do this. Since a couple of years ago, we went through a petition that 150 people had to sign. We went through an election, 400 to 500 people voted for it, and now we sit here today that nobody has the integrity that signed that piece of paper or voted for it to put their name down to be on city council. Just drives me to crazy.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, because
fact, we
at
had
the
so
last
many.
election, we had several.
We had 12.
Yeah, and none of them decided to step up again, or what this issue is, I don't know, but
Well, the climate changes in 2 years' time where you think, oh, well, I don't want to be part of that council now with this going on, or they wanted to be part of the council at that time because what was going on. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to it. I'm in total agreement with you, Dave. But right now for this election, we have no other option. We can revisit some things before the next election in 2 years if we so choose.
I don't want to second guess the public, but I think the best thing to do is to enact this ordinance so that we don't run into a situation where we have 30 write-ins and someone's elected to the council with 15 votes. You know?
Yeah.
So I think this is a good suggestion.
and it's someone that agreed to do it.
Yeah, someone that is interested in, hopefully
Yes.
we didn't get that.
Otherwise, it just wastes time. They don't want to do it anyway.
Yep.
All right, so then do we have somebody that wants to make this?
I'll make that a motion. What is that?
Ordinance 379.
Yeah, that one. Thank you, Eric.
I'll second.
First and second, do we have any further discussion before we take roll call? Okay, roll call, please.
Lundy,
Aye.
Robson,
Aye.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Cheeks,
No.
Koopman,
Yes.
and Schultz,
Aye.
and Mayor Coleman.
Aye.
Is that 6?
Yep.
Okay, that's 2/3, and we'll go through the procedure, and that'll be law by the end of the week. Thank you, Mayor. That's all we had this evening.
Okay.
Thanks for catching that.
Anybody else have anything before we adjourn? Do we have